afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We want to bring to order our regular meeting of the Homeless and Poverty Committee on March 8th. Joined by Vice Chair, Councilperson for the 14th District, Mr. Jose Huizar, and the newly victorious council member for the 11th District, the one and only Mike Bonin. Let's give him a big round of applause again. Dominating performance yesterday. We have three items, Mr. Clerk, but we will begin with the multiple card speakers, of which I have three. And so can you explain to us the allotment of time given to these individuals?
Yeah, 2 minutes will be given for the multiple items and 1 minute for the general public comment.
Okay, so I have three people who have multiple items and a general comment card. You can all come forward and take a seat and take turns. One person's name is Herman, another person's name is Antonio Ramirez, and another person's name is Wayne.
Ladies first, after all, it's red. No? Please. All right. Good afternoon. I'm on general public comment, right?
Yeah. No, you have items that you filled out cards for?
Yeah.
And we're not going to have any amplified
I'm trying to turn off this device.
Electronic sound.
This device needs to go off. Hold on.
Can you start the time, please?
You don't want me to turn this off?
You have items 1,
Well, you're running the clock, sir.
2, 3, and public comment, so you can speak to any of those.
All right. Well, regarding homeless strategy on presentations from the Downtown Women's Action. Well, this morning the Women's Action went on for a lengthy 2 hours of time. Good afternoon, Mr. Price. Thank you for walking in late. But, you know, I don't take lightly the comments by Jose Huizar saying that I'm a threat in these meetings, because dumb motherfuckers like that just are haters.
You got to stay on your item. You got to stay on your item, or we'll just give you a minute for public comment.
See my red shirt and my red cap? I'm in support of women. I love women.
Mr. Clerk, can you give him a...
It says here, Downtown Women's Needs Assessment, and that's why we're here. We're talking about the committee report relative to the presentation on Downtown Women Action, and I'm a part of that coalition. So I'm on topic, Mr. Houseboy. And then on item 3, Housing and Community Investment Department report to the program of the fiscal year 2015-2016, I'm against it. Those general funds are unpleasant. It's not enough to deal with the homeless strategy under 7H. But the voters voted yesterday, and Mr. Bonin, congratulations, no offense, but fuck, what are you really doing on the homeless issue? What are you doing? Eric Garcetti has served as an elected official under the pretense of a gay man as an elected official, and then we go into the mayor.
Stay on topic.
Yes, it is, because the topic is I'm going to hold Eric Garcetti this year, for the record. I'm a homeless person by design of the city of Los Angeles, by Jose Huizar, that Dibble Dwarf, and Tom LaBonge.
You're into your minute of public comment.
That's fine. I don't fucking cares about time, houseboy. It's just time. I got time to blow. I got time to blow the same way current Price's wife blow him off, both of them. But this issue, again, has to do with the same situation I'm talking about. I'm holding Eric Garcetti, the House Negro, on the circumstances of homelessness. I've been homeless since 2008, and I want to see what that motherfucker can do to get me off the street being homeless. Because on my next charge with Janice Hahn is to see how far you bros, I'm talking about all you House Negro, houseboys, can go to get me off the goddamn fucking street. So I have to come in here and belittle you. But I have a right under the Ralph M. Brown Act, 54954.3.c. It says we have a right to criticize elected officials who fail to make housing and homeless affordable and get us off the fucking street, assholes. Thank you, Sheila Q.
We've been joined by another member, also victorious last night in a resounding way, the one and only Kern Price, council member for District 9. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Hey! Hey!
Ms. Ramirez?
Thank you very much. Let me begin by saying that the Downtown Women's Action Coalition is a farce, ineffective, and a disgrace. As a homeless woman by political design, and among other homeless women who went through so much pain, shame, frustration at night because there were no places to go urinate or go to the bathrooms, I would have to hold it until 5:30 in the morning to wait till the bathrooms opened at 5:30 in the morning at the Grand Park bathroom. Or I'd have to go to the trains, the buses, and go to Jack in the Box or go to an open restaurant and spend a lot of money. Restaurants are not cheap. Being homeless is not cheap. It's expensive. Sometimes $30 a pop at the Justice restaurant. So here I am spending a lot of money, and is Garcetti helping? Hell no. And I will never forgive that man for being such a damn liar about protecting women's rights. There are good women who are homeless like myself, who are not drug dealers, drinkers, anything. We are just victims of crime, but nobody helped us. And by the grace of God, I am somewhere in South Central, and I've got some bones there to pick too. But other than that, no, the Women's Coalition is a farce. It's a political crap game, nothing more than a game. Number two, let me begin by saying shared rooms really don't work. The rooms are too small, and too many times the women that you are placed with are drug addicts or drug dealers. They don't bathe, they don't wash, they don't disinfect. They've got bed bugs, MRSA, scabies, staph infections, and then you worry about theft. And then you lock up everything and you unlock everything every day. Lock your bags, unlock your bags, combinations ad nauseum. And then gang stalking. I mean, I have to go through bags every night, unlock, lock. It's just live out of your goddamn bags in a shared room. And the people you live with, you don't have nothing in common because you don't do drugs. You don't drink. You don't do none of that crap. So God, I wish I had my life back. And then
We're into your minute of general public comment.
General comment back? Thank you. I can't wait till Donald Trump starts deporting these goddamn wetbacks and gangbangers. I will be happy when at full throttle they get sent back. If any of you have lived in East LA, South Central with these goddamn Latino wetbacks, Pico Union, you don't know what it's like to live among these goddamn wetbacks and gangbangers as a single woman. They'll start labeling you a lesbo. I'm not a lesbo. I'm a straight woman and I love men. So I'm not a radical feminist. Thank you, God. And I just can't stand pussies. But other than that, I love men, and I love life, and I am gracious, and I'm happy about sleeping on a bed in a warm bed. I mean, I'm happy, and I'm grateful for Donald Trump because he's actually doing something. He's putting America first and the American people.
Thank
God
you. That's
bless
your time.
Donald Trump.
Mr. Spindler.
Hallelujah.
Yes, I read the Strategic Committee report on the needs of women. First, we got to start here in the House. CD 14, judgment for sexual harassment. Can't have any more of that bullshit. No more of that. CD 12.
What item are you speaking on?
On item 1, the needs of women. They don't need to be harassed in the workplace, which are being harassed in this building. Public record. And that little Mitchell Englander had one of them little judgments against him. Said one of his staff wanted to run.
Let us know if we're on topic or not.
Yeah, she actually said,
Yes, it appears that the speaker has gone beyond the parameters
hold my time.
of the agendized matter, and he is to be reminded to stay on topic with respect to the item.
But you're running my time, see? You don't want to hold my time. So, you see, that's why we got these two sexual harasser, predator council people, and they got to stop with the predations. They got to stop. That's the need of downtown women. They work downtown. Women are working down here.
Is that a warning?
Yes, that's a warning. If you continue to be off topic, we'll just end your time.
Yeah. See, you don't like the truth. Funding identification for shared housing. Well, like Antonia said, that's a key word for all of this forced lesbian activity that goes on with these women in these shared apartments. It's like the prisons, except instead of being prison bitches, you're going to be homeless bitches unless you start being lesbo bitches, and that just isn't good.
Speaker is again reminded to stay on topic.
I am on topic.
This is your last warning.
That's what happens in housing. You see what I mean? It's what happens in housing is if you're not having prostitution of women, you're having forced sexual slavery in these housing projects, and the goddamn shit's got to stop. So that's it. Now we'll get to the minute. Now we're going to get to the minute, and, you know, the whole thing is Herb Wesson talked about reconciliation today, being so conciliatory, getting together. That's all bullshit. See, you got 15 mafia-controlled districts, 1 through 14, and then that goddamn Kiro Torosian, that fuck running in CD7 that's going to put everybody out of their houses. So I'm gonna support Monica Rodriguez for CD7 because she's going to deal with homelessness, because that motherfucker Kiro Torosian and Paul Krikorian threw 2 people out of affordable triplexes just downstairs today. And the day where women are coming there and saying they're going to be homeless if they don't protect their 2 triplexes and rent control, you don't give a shit about women, you don't give a shit about the elderly, you don't give a shit about the disabled. The only thing you want to do is keep those Benjamins rolling for you and your family, and that suit's not working for you, bro.
That's your time. Mr. Clerk, can you read item 1 into the record?
Yes, sir. Item number 1 is the Homeless Strategy Committee report relative to a presentation from the Downtown Women's Action Coalition on the results of the Downtown Women's Needs Assessment. We have one more speaker card.
Excellent. So we have one speaker on this matter. It's Mr. Tom Grody.
Hi, I'm Tom Grody. I'm a Skid Row resident. I won't need 2 minutes. I just want to call your attention. Last July, August, the Downtown News published 3 large articles about the crisis of women living on the streets of Skid Row. And if you were to go back and read those articles, they're very strong. They have some specific recommendations, but for the most part, it's just sort of sounding the alarm. But they used extremely strong language in describing the situation. So I just want to call your attention to those 3 articles and just put them in the context of the material in the needs assessment.
Thank you. All right, we have a few folks that are going to present on this matter. I have Ms. Amy Turk and Ms. Louise Mbella of the Downtown Women's Action Coalition. Can you all come forward? 3 speakers. I'm sorry, I'm missing one.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you all please identify yourselves?
My name is Amy Turk.
My name is Sylvia Hernandez.
My name is Louise Mbella.
I'm Amy Turk, the Chief Program Officer of the Downtown Women's Center. And the Downtown Women's Center is a member organization of Downtown Women's Action Coalition, otherwise known as DWAC. And I'm joined today with Louise and Sylvia to present to you the results of the 2016 Downtown Women's Needs Assessment. And it's a fitting day to make this presentation on International Women's Day, when we take pause to consider and think about the gender disparities across the world. It's also fitting in that we are hopefully staring at a victory for Measure H, and Los Angeles declaring that we could have the resources to impact ending homelessness. And it's very nice to sit in front of you all who had an excellent day at the polls as well. So congratulations. Every 3 years, the Downtown Women's Action Coalition comprises this needs assessment. This is the 6th needs assessment since 2001. Last spring, 109 volunteers came together on a Saturday morning and surveyed 371 women living in the downtown area, mostly living in Skid Row, mostly experiencing homelessness or have, and all of whom are living at low incomes. And it's a good sample size. In CD14, there are just a little over 1,500 women experiencing homelessness, which, as you know, comprises Skid Row. And among other important information in this report, there are 4 really big themes. One is that housing, permanent housing, is completely lacking for this population. The other is the prevalence of violence against women continues to be astoundingly high. Another is that homelessness impacts women of color disproportionately, especially African American women. And new in the last 6 years or so, we've seen a growing aging population, more older women than ever before experiencing homelessness. And Sylvia will share with you more information starting on slide 2 if you're looking at the PowerPoint slides.
Thank you very much. Yes, on the last results of the needs assessment, we found out that more than 55% of women were on the street in comparison from the last needs assessment report. So from 2013 to 2016, 55% more women are on the street. And the most alarming number is that the women are getting older. That means women on the ages of 51 and up are growing on the streets. So that is telling us that women, also from the ages from 51 to 61, are getting into the streets, are becoming more African American and staying sicker longer. This is, again, overrepresentation of the African American women in comparison with Latina and white women. African American women also was found that is more likely to be exposed to violence and stay longer on the streets. And going into the housing item, we understand that that is the most important thing that we have to resolve. Housing is needed. It's not enough. We found out that 30% of the women surveyed were living on SROs. Another 30% or 30% were living on the shelters, and another 30% were living on the streets. The comparison with house women were very impactful, because the women that were housed, they were less likely to have any contact with police, interaction with the police, less likely to have or experience violence, less likely to be exposed or getting into the drug and alcohol abuse, and having also a better network, social network with friends and families. So I point this out because we can see the benefit of having house. House is needed. Also, we don't finish with housing. Things that measure age pass already, because this is going to support the need of having also those services into the housing that we already got from HHH. So we are gladly to inform you that if we continue giving services, the women, they are more likely to preserve their housing. So also we found out that if we have some legal representation, legal information, so the ladies don't lose their house. Some tenants' rights information, some tenants' right representation, so the ladies, they don't lose their housing. Another recommendation from DWAC is to have services focus on the needs of the ladies that they are between the ages of 55 and up. They self-identify with a very, very poor health. So we want the service providers to identify those needs and give them the proper services. And we want also to remove some criminalization towards women living in the streets by getting rid of those ordinances 48.1 and 5611 that criminalize women and keeps them on the circle of homelessness. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Louise Mbala. I go by Sanai and they call me Frenchie in the community. I'm former Downtown Women Action Coalition co-chair, still a member, a community organizer and advocate in the community. I've been a member of the Downtown Women's Center. I've been advocating from a shelter bed, and so we have worked together to put this survey as a community group. So it was low-income people, volunteers from different backgrounds, Downtown Women's Center, us, people from LA Can, and we got together to organize this survey in which the women speaks for themselves. We had to go to each questionnaire, and we had to make sure that each question represent what they need. And there was a time where we had a meeting to make sure that the question represent their need. And when it came to violence, thankfully, we asked the right question, and you see the numbers, 90%, they responded that they experienced some form of violence. So I'm going to speak on 3 items: healthcare, violence against women, and community resources, briefly. So if you look at the slide, healthcare, the women are saying, 55.6% are saying that they are experiencing physical health. Their physical health is being poor or fair. So that's 2016. But in 2013, when we did the survey, it was only 42.3%. So that means that living on the street, the health deteriorates. But here's the catch. It's not that there's no health insurance for the underserved, it's the access to the health services. So we need to really focus on how we're going to provide that resource, whether information or just increase that access to healthcare for women living on the street, especially on Skid Row. Violence against women. So shortly, briefly, in 2016, the numbers went up to 90.8%. And for sexual assault only, it was 39.4%. So basically, violence against women that are on the street are extreme, and especially also inside shelter. And I say it all the time because people don't really realize that there is violence also in shelter. So it's not enough to provide shelter for women, but also a brainstorm on what safety means for the women, even inside programs. We're going to have that conversation, because what happens is when that subject is not dealt with, women are victims of violence, not just in the street, but also inside shelters, inside programs, and so forth. So, and also another thing too is that women have complained that when you release people out of jail, and I'm going to tell you straight out, they've complained that the mentality that the people have when they release from prison is different from their mentality, and some of them, they feel like it's a separation. They also feel like domestic violence, there's so much emphasis and resources for survivors of domestic violence, but not necessarily survivors of crime. Not every crime done to an individual is done by a partner or family members. Let's just get real, okay? So perhaps we need either victims of crime shelters only, and then we need to really figure some form of program to help and serve those who come out of prison, and help them also detox from prison mentality and from the trauma that it brings, and that's just reality. You know what I'm trying to say? We so many times we focus on, oh, let's get them a job and get out of the shelter and get housing. Well, guess what? You need to detox from...
Mr. Herman, you need to sit down or leave immediately.
I was going through that. Can I leave without you saying something?
So there is a distinction that needs to be made, and we need to provide a service to people that come out of prison to instead of putting them directly to work, provide them with the services that they need to mentally readapt to this society, so that also they could get along with the women that are on the street or freshly in the shelter but that haven't had that experience. There is a distinction. And then in terms of community resources, the women are saying basically, number one, 72.7% are saying we need housing. And so that's still the number one need. The women are saying they need housing. And then 41.8% are saying that they need access to mental health and physical health. So having health insurance does not mean you have access. Because if you're mentally ill and you're on the corner on the block of 5th and St. Pedro, or you're in your tent and you're scared and the women's center is closed, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like you may not necessarily know or have the mind to know that, okay, let me go to a JCWH clinic on the corner and maybe they have this, or, it's a form of outreach that we need to be sensible to. And then 32.1% of the women are saying that, of course, they need more shelter beds. That will always be until, we resolve this issue. Also, community program in terms of employment and training opportunities. So 20.5% are saying that's what they need. But the thing is that until you're housed, how can you get to a job training? You understand? Like, I remember when I wanted to do a workshop at the Women's Center or something, and it's like, you have to go, with your bag or your suitcase, and it's more than being embarrassing, it's just uncomfortable. And so, and not every shelter allows you to keep your bags there. Only the programs, like today, they have a new program at the Midnight Mission, that's great, they'll be able to leave their bags there. That's what we need. You understand? So employment and job opportunities, they are prerequisites that need to take place before somebody could have access to those. And I know it sounds complicated, but that's what it is. It is a complicated situation. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. That completes your report. Okay. Colleagues, are there any questions for the panelists? Mr. Price? Mr. Bonin?
Compelling testimony, though. Thank you.
Yes, very compelling testimony.
Very good.
Thank you. Today the Midnight Mission opened up a portion of its shelter specifically for women, and I think that's a step in the right direction. Do you, and obviously the report talks about the need for more shelters overall, the more need for more permanent supportive housing, et cetera. But in terms of providing shelter space, which is the more immediate one, do you encourage more standalone women shelters, or do you do an approach that we should all encourage is of the existing shelters to set aside more places for women? What's the best and more practical approach right now?
Well, we actually are seeking to have more shelters with trauma caring for. That's what we really need, as Francine mentioned it. There's a lot of women, like more than 50%, that they said that after they are going to a trauma experience, nobody really gives them any service. We really are needed of that, plus the amount of beds. So we just were this morning to the opening of the Women's Crisis Center at the Midnight Mission, and they are offering 43 beds that they will, where they will help them to channel them to get permanent supportive housing. So those type of things we want to see more there. So because we don't want the people to be stuck on the shelters, we really want them to be housed. But we want the people that provide the services to be conscious and culturally competent. Help me out?
Trauma-informed.
Trauma-informed, yeah. Yeah, so more sensitized, because that's the gap. That's the gap that if we are not aware of it and we understand it, the people don't go back to the street. There's a lot of things over there already, but we have to be sensitized. So the people, they don't end up on the street again.
On page 9 of the report, we asked women, do you prefer services in spaces that are only for women? And more Latina women reported yes to that question than other groups. But every group was 34% or above preferred single-sex programs. But to Sylvia's point, it's how the services are delivered that seems most important. And if the staff are, in our opinion, well-trained and provide trauma-informed care, then you are better able to meet the needs of women in particular.
Yes, I would agree with Amy because sometimes, like, I've been in shelters and you have a staff member telling you, don't you have a house yet? Well, get yourself a house. I mean, I know I sound very raw, but that's really the language. It's like I don't have legs and you tell me to run. And so the trauma-informed care training by staff or by volunteer is critical because, you know, sometimes they kick people out of the shelter in situations where they shouldn't have kicked the person out in the middle of the night, talking to them crazy, telling them, get yourself a house. And it's not just isolated incident. And if you don't believe me, be an undercover homeless for about a week and you get all your data right there, or at least some of it. So trauma-informed care, they need to know how to speak to the clients, okay, what to say, what not to say. And then the shelter, we need to know that there is a difference between emergency shelter and a shelter program. Emergency shelter, you have to take your bags with you every day in the morning. When you come back at 4 or whenever they reopen the shelter, you get another bed, whichever bed is available. In other words, you carry your life with you everywhere you go, which is good because during those few hours, you could have a meal and shower. But how can you put those bags down and go from there to go training, to go to social services? So let's be clear. Are you going to get funding and services for emergency shelter or program shelter? And I think program shelter is the way to go.
Thank you. And just thank you for doing this every year. We have actually, as you know, used the information we obtained from these reports for our own comprehensive strategic plan on homelessness. It's been very helpful for us to think about the direction that the city wants to go in its services. So thank you for this and encourage you to continue doing it. And I know for staff, some of our LAPD officers recently were asked to get more trauma-informed care training. Have we started that? It was part of our comprehensive plan. Anybody on staff know that? No? So
we did, our CEO, Ann Miskey, with Downtown Women's Center, provided a training to the home team.
Of the home, yes.
Just 2 weeks ago. And so we are also still waiting to hear on an application through LASA to provide more trauma-informed care trainings to city departments. It's pending.
That's good because our comprehensive strategic plan called for that, and it's one of the growing needs in Skid Row. So hopefully we'll continue with that training with our officers.
Could I add something on that point? I think there's a recommendation also here that to consider the leaders, peer leaders, people that have been already recover to help on these teams that they're going to be trained, because the people in the community they are experts. They know it will be a good team, you know, to have experts and community members that they've been through all the issues that, you know, that it is to be homeless. So I think that's another point that we have to consider. So the people is well treated with the person that knows how to approach them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as this is a status update only, we'll continue this item and move on to item number 2.
Okay, sir. Item number 2 is a motion by Council Members Bonin and Harris Dawson relative to funding identification for a shared housing pilot program in Council District 11.
Excellent, thank you. So I believe we have representation here from the CAO and LASA. Yes, no, maybe?
Good afternoon, council members. Paul Duncan, Associate Director of Systems Integration at LASA. So we are in support of continuing to look at the shared housing opportunities that may be available within Los Angeles, and are in support of looking at where there is funds available in order to support any potential pilot program going forward around increasing shared housing anywhere in the city of Los Angeles, so specifically in District 11. So we are in support, and we'll look at moving that forward if it is passed by.
I'll move approval.
Okay. So we have a motion for approval. Is there any comments from members?
Oh,
Ms. Parker?
no, not at this time. I know that there is a pilot moving forward in a couple of other places on shared housing, so this seems like it would fit nicely in with that.
Great. So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? All right. Hearing no objection, we'll approve that item. Thank you all so much.
Item 3.
Number 3?
Yes, sir. Item number 3 is a Housing and Community Investment Department report relative to the reprogramming of unspent fiscal year 2015-16 city general funds and unspent general funds from prior fiscal years for use by the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority to fund Homeless Strategy 7H.
And given the information that we just got, if there's no objection, we'll continue that matter.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there anything else?
That clears the desk, sir.
Excellent. We're adjourned. Thank you all so much.